Welcome everyone to week number 2 in Science 200. We've got a lot going on this week, and so I want to get started right away. It's a beautiful day here. Today is Mother's Day when I'm making this video, and let's get started. So first of all, last May when I went to Scotland, I saw this sea eagle, and I got this great picture while I was standing on a boat that was rocking up and down in the waves. So it's amazing that I got this picture. But there is a sea eagle, and it is really cool. All right, so last week, I always like to review what we did last week to make this a continuous kind of course, because you need to see all the connections between the beginning information all the way to the end. So last week you learned about what are the natural sciences. Of course, so many of you chose biology or environmental science as your favorite natural sciences. I can't blame you for that, since I am a biologist, but some of you had other interests too, geology, astronomy, that sort of thing. But you learned about the natural sciences, what they are, what they encompass, what you study if you are this type of a scientist. You also learned a bit about how science works. And it's not as easy as they described to you in the 7th grade. You know, you develop a hypothesis, you design experiments, you carry them out, you write up your results, and that's the end. No, it does not work like that. That is a very, very simplified version of how science works. But, you know, that gives you the beginning of it, of how it works. Of course, we do develop hypotheses and we test them, but it takes a tremendous amount of work doing background study in order to even figure out a good question to ask. So you have to really, really know your subject. You have to really know that area of science before you can even develop any kind of questions to answer. You have to develop really good experiments. You have to test them over and over and over and over and over again. You don't do them once. You don't do them 3 times. You don't even do them 10 times. You do them over and over and over and over again until you're sure that the results that you're getting are consistent and that something truly is at work here. And then, yes, you do write up your results, and then you publish those results for all the scientists in the world to read, examine, critique, very important. These are your peers, and so they want to know what you did, and they want to agree or disagree with you. They may see issues in what you've done. So that's really important for people to point out, and so that everybody is honest and above board and true science is happening. So that's part of science too. The importance of revision. You're going to have a chance to do revision throughout this course. Revision is terribly important. And in science it is too. I mean, just in general in science. I cannot tell you how many times I would write something and then I would hand it off to everybody that I knew, everybody in my research group. I'd hand it off to my advisor. I'd hand it off to the other students there, other professors, just to get everybody's ideas about what I had written. And did it make sense? And was it logical? And did they agree with it? And that sort of thing. And then we would have research meetings every Wednesday, and we would discuss our research, and I would get more feedback that way. So there was a lot of revision that took place. You also learned about Alexander Fleming, microbiologist, my favorite. And how he discovered penicillin, which was a whole interesting process. So he was a scientist. He was a microbiologist and accidentally discovered this mold growing on his petri dishes where he was normally growing bacteria. And this mold was producing a chemical that prevented the growth of bacteria. And he called it penicillin because the species of mold that he had growing on the plate was Penicillium notatum. So he isolated penicillin, and basically that was good for him. He'd done what he wanted to, but other people saw the applications for it, and they went on and developed it and grew this mold and subsequently different molds in huge cultures and isolated penicillin and started giving it to the general public when they had infections, especially things like staph infections. And people used to die from staph infections all the time because there were no drugs to treat bacterial infections before antibiotics. So this showed you the process of science and how it can be taken from the lab all the way out to the general public. You chose your research topic. I can't wait to see those. And I may have some feedback for you on those. It just depends on what you've chosen. But we will be looking at those, and you will be developing a question this week on your research topic. Oh, isn't that a beautiful butterfly? It was from last summer. It'll be July here soon. I'll be taking more of these pictures. Okay, so this week is all about chapter 2. Remember that your Sumo web text has a chapter for each week. And so this week is week 2, and so you will be working in chapter 2. Now, this is the longest chapter in the whole textbook. It is very verbose. Let me just say that. I know that a scientist did not write this chapter. Now, it is very, very interesting. It's basically written like a story, which I found very interesting. I loved every bit of it. But I can tell you that a scientist did not write this chapter because, yeah, there's a lot of description, but it makes a very good story. So read through all of chapter 2. You might want to do it in chunks. I'm just saying. It took me a little while to get through it. But it's all about the process of public health and how cholera was discovered to be transmitted through water. It is a waterborne disease. So cholera produces something called rice water stool, and that basically means you have diarrhea to the point where just fluids are coming out of your body. You get dehydrated very, very quickly, and so it's extremely dangerous for vulnerable people like children and the elderly, but it can kill grown, healthy adults in a matter of days. So cholera can be very, very deadly, and you still hear about it sometimes when a hurricane goes over Haiti or somewhere like that where the sanitation's not all that good to start with. You'll hear about cholera outbreaks, and so they are deadly. Well, this was happening in the 1800s in London, where there were so many people living together in this huge city by now, and there was not good sanitation, and so they had to develop sewer systems. The problem was that they were dumping their sewage into the Thames River, which is where they were also getting their water. And so the sewage was going into the water supply. And no one realized this, right? They didn't understand this. Most people thought that diseases were passed along through miasma. So miasma is these noxious fumes floating through the air, so stinky odors basically is what it is. And they thought that almost all diseases were carried along this way. So airborne diseases. Well, cholera is not spread like that, but people didn't realize it back then. They just thought that everything was spread that way. So if they smelled some stinky smells, better watch out. Here comes an infection. So the overarching view of public health in those days was that miasma was the cause of all infections. Well, John Snow, you're going to read about physician, surgeon, important public health doctor in the 1800s, John Snow, who figured out that cholera was caused by waterborne transmission. And the way that he did it was he mapped out the cases, he mapped out the sewer systems, he mapped out the water sources, and showed that contaminated water sources were how people were developing cholera. And this was terribly important because before this, people just thought it was in the air, and so there wasn't a way to get rid of it. But because of his work, they figured out how to change the water system, how to change the water sources, and how sewage was dumped into the Thames so that people wouldn't get sick and die from cholera. This shows you how public health works. I worked in public health for 11 years. I did vector control during that time, control of rats, flies, fleas, ticks, so many little animals that carry along diseases to humans. That's what I did. So I worked in public health, and I did all aspects of it, so I understand it. You also learn about how science works and how one person with a vision, who's a scientist, as long as he or she collects data, I cannot stress the importance of that, collects data and shows support for their ideas through the data, how they can change the course of the world, really. Sure did change the course of the health of people in London during that time and sanitation practices throughout the world. So it was very, very important work. So it shows you how science works. And I can't stress enough the importance of collecting data and figuring out what it means. That's what John Snow did, and that's how he performed his science. So this week you do not have discussion board postings due. You have discussion board postings in weeks 1, 3, 6, and 8. This is week 2, so you don't have discussion board postings, but you're going to be working on your topic. You're going to develop a specific research question. So instead of what is ocean acidification, you've got to find a research question that you can find the answer to. So maybe you want to say, I'll give you an idea. What is the effect of ocean acidification on shell formation in mollusks in the ocean? Okay, something like that. Let's think. If you're talking about electric vehicles, what is the carbon footprint of one electric vehicle as compared to a gasoline-powered vehicle of the same brand? Something like that. Just be more specific than what is ocean acidification, what is an electric vehicle. Yeah, that's not a research question. So you're going to develop a research question. It can be a huge question. It can be much smaller. If you're interested in ocean acidification and you live in Florida, you might want to know something that has to do with your specific area, and that is perfectly fine. And if it's not, I'll be telling you, I'll be discussing that with you through email. So how are you supposed to figure this out? Well, you should already be doing research on your topic already, right now. You're going to have to do a bunch of background research. That does not mean Googling the topic. Oh my word. You're going to come up with 1,000, no, tens of thousands of websites that have something to do with whatever it is you type in, right? So you got to narrow this down, and this has to be scientific research. So I'm going to give you some hints about this. First of all, start with the Shapiro Library. It is a wonderful resource. You have access to so many full text articles, which is absolutely amazing. Otherwise, you have to pay for these. You have to pay for access to these. So use the Shapiro Library. If you can't narrow down the topic, just add more terms, right? And as you develop your research, as you read more and more about this particular topic, you're going to figure out how to narrow this down, okay? Another way to search is doing Google Scholar searches. Not Google, Google Scholar, okay? You can find really good information that way. And also PubMed. I use Google Scholar and PubMed all the time, and always have. Especially PubMed. I've used that for many, many years now. It looks like it's medical publications, but it's really all scientific publications are in PubMed. So those are 3 resources to help you find the true science behind your topics instead of doing Google searches, okay? Right here, this is at the beach off of Charleston, South Carolina, and these are dolphin strand feeding. I just want to mention my picture here. So dolphins act cooperatively and herd fish up to the shore and scare them and run them up onto the shore, and the fish fly out of the water, and the dolphins always come up on their right sides and grab the fish, and then they scoot back around. You can see the one that's turning and going back into the water. They scoot back around and go back into the water. So this is a learned behavior that mothers pass on to their offspring, and they teach them how to strand feed. Maybe later on I'll tell you about I think it's a National Geographic episode. I'll find it for you and link it. Because one of the dolphins that I know off the coast of Charleston is featured as a baby. Kaya is featured in this documentary, and it is so amazing because I've seen this baby dolphin grow up with his mother. So anyway, no, hey, quit that. So I'll link that probably next time. And then tip for you. I'll find my next slide. Here we go. Oh, those are some puffins. Are they so cute? In Scotland, that was what I was dying to see when I went to Scotland, and I saw them. Here they are. Aren't they so cute? And they're so funny. So funny. They waddle around like little ducks and have such big personalities. So anyway, my tip for the week is to break up your assignments into manageable pieces. Like I mentioned with that chapter 2, I would read a section or two at a time and answer the questions and then go back to it. You may have to sit down and do it all at one time. Take a break if you need to in between there. Go get you a snack in the middle just so you can stay focused, right? The same thing with your research. Do some research today, do some research tomorrow when you have a chance to see what you come up with. So you have a fresh mind, as you're looking at this. All right? This will be more important later on. I'll mention it again. Okay, I hope that you have a wonderful week this week. There is my email address, m.sigmon@snhu.edu. If you need anything, I am here for you. I will help you if you have any questions, if you're having any issues or any problems. Please let me know. I'm always willing to work with you. I can help you in lots and lots and lots of different ways. So I'm here to help you learn and to help you move through this course. So please do use me as a resource. m.sigmon@snhu.edu. I hope that you have a wonderful week this week.